Thanks so much for tuning in to the Sustainable Brown Girl YouTube channel. This show exists to provide representation for women of color within the environmental space, to share their stories, and to inspire all to be more eco-friendly every day. I'm your host, Ariel Green. This is where you can see all of the full video podcast episodes. So be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. Also, go follow us on Instagram at Sustainable Brown Girl. Enjoy! Today's featured Sustainable Brown Girl is Jade Nikaylah Williams, a model, designer, and alchemist of the earth. Through her art, plant-based meals, and free-flowing lifestyle, Jade inspires us to remember that we are infinite beings living a human experience. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jade.
Thank you.
Yes. So I always like to start at the beginning. So let us know, like, what led you to like love the earth, the planet so much.
I've always had an appreciation for the planet. I was a very curious child with when it came to nature and like celestial beings in space and just like life, how we got here, what we're doing here, etc. But this specific journey started a year ago. Just trying to find a new hobby during the pandemic, and I never really got into dyeing before, and I've always been interested in pigmentation. So I would just do like little experiments, and I didn't realize there was already a community for natural dyeing. And so I kind of did a deep dive and then tried doing my own things in that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So you said you always kind of had a love for the planet. Like
Mm-hmm.
what did that look like for you?
Just I had an interest always in how the planet basically already has what we need, and we don't really need to look outside of that.
Yeah.
So a lot of my work revolved around recycled things and turning things that were deemed as trash into things that are treasured. And so the idea of not like consuming unnecessarily tied into a lot of my art. I realized as I got older, I thought it was just more so me being thrifty as a kid. I love thrift shops. I love like kind of collecting things from the earth, and so it kind of all just tied into this journey, and it's continuing to unfold and develop as I go.
Yes, I
Mhm.
love that. So you mentioned a little bit about your natural dyes and stuff. So let's kind of talk about your business, Portal Rugs.
Mhm.
What is it and like what led you to start it?
So that's actually not the name of the business. It's
Oh,
literally like this was more so like a project, and I call them portals. I guess that's what you would call them. I
ah,
haven't gone through the official process of giving it a name and a business name and LLC just
got you.
yet. But it's basically it's art as of now, and I'm hoping to take commissions in the future. But basically, when I was doing my natural dyeing process, I kind of just went down a rabbit hole of like, what could I do with the materials I already have, hemp cord, the natural dyes I've been making, and I realized that there's already things, hemp rugs that are already out there, and I realized that it was very easy to make, for me at least, something that I um, would find easy interest in. And so I
Yeah.
kind of just gave it my own twist and used the materials that I had, and it just felt right. It felt like I was creating a portal for my, not only for my growth, but just for people who can relate to it. And so instead of just calling it a rug, I called it a portal because like
Yes.
it's made from the earth, and when you sit on it or if you hang it up, you kind of get drawn into it. It's very, as you can see, it's behind me as well. It's very much alive, and that's pretty much where I got that concept from.
Wow, that's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. I love that you call it a portal and you explain it like that. Like I can
Mm-hmm.
just imagine like meditating on it and just
Yeah.
being like super zen.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So it ties into like sacred geometry too. It's circular. There's there's patterns. There's different colors. Everything coming from the earth, and it's also like a reflection of you. Like I feel like when you look into a mirror, it's also a portal as well. It's diving deeper into yourself. when you think of a portal, it's like a hollow hole, or if you look at the basic definition of what a portal might be. And I feel like a lot of the journey that humans go through in life is diving deeper into their self, the portal of their own soul. So
Wow, that's
yes.
amazing. I love it so much.
Hmm.
So, I mean, this is obviously a piece of art, like you
Hmm.
said, it is art. So, um, how long have you, I mean, I guess people are just born an artist, like you don't really become an artist. So I
Hmm.
guess you've already always been an artist. So, like,
Hmm.
how did you kind of, fall into that?
Um, as a kid, I drew a lot. I danced a lot. Did played with makeup, and very multifaceted in the art world.
Yeah.
So as I got older, I kind of as far as college, I got into art school called SCAD, and
Hmm.
really got a chance to refine my skills in artistry. Um, it was very expensive, so I transferred to Howard University where my mom works, and then I transitioned from fine art slash fashion design into graphic design. So working more with virtual technology and branding and so on and so forth, along with synonymously becoming a sign model. So modeling was also a form of art as well.
Yeah.
um, but along the way, like you see that you change as an artist as well, and sometimes you kind of drift away from it, especially when you become an adult and money gets involved, and social media gets involved. You're comparing your art to other people's, and that's very it's been a journey.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of you know I've been in the soil for a long time, and now I'm sprouting again and tapping back into the childlike passion of just creating.
Yes. Yes, I
Mhm.
can definitely see that process, on your Instagram,
Mhm.
where it just seems so natural, the way that you create your rugs and, whatever other things that you're working on. You can just see like the, I don't want to say passion, but it's just like the homeliness of it. It just
Mhm.
really looks like you're at home. So I love
Thank
that so
you.
much. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So tell us about like what other types of art aside from the rugs are do you create?
um, I do a lot of my work is virtual now, graphic
Yeah.
design, like I was saying. Yeah, right now my niche is kind of like the textile thing, but
Hmm.
I do have a background in like doing painting and realistic drawings and so on and so forth. But
Yeah.
I think as I kind of grew into myself and got a love for like herbs. I have a I'm collecting herbs and having my own little personal apothecary going on. That's where I realized that I can marry the two, art with nature. And
Yes.
so right now I'm still developing like what can I do with those two things, and kind of just share my journey with the public. So yeah, that's what I'm working on now. I don't want to like say too much because it's like I've been,
Things
I,
change.
for example, like I just I let it flow. I do like
Yeah.
dream catchers. I'll do like things that you can hang on the wall. A lot of decorative pieces right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yes. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's awesome. So, since you're, kind of into alchemy and like the natural dye and stuff, I do kind of want to talk about your natural dye process and the
Hmm.
materials that you use for your rugs. So when
Hmm.
I was, looking through your Instagram, I saw that for the dye, you use like onion skins and
Hmm.
herbs. And I think I even saw black beans.
Yeah, black beans is one of my favorite
Wow.
ingredients. Yeah.
Yeah, talk about that.
So yeah, so I do a lot of experimenting and a lot of research as well. So
Mhm.
some things I did find from the internet, some things I just kind of thought about experimenting with. And so I can use I've been using ingredients such as turmeric to get yellow golden hues, then hibiscus for a magenta hue. I can show you, I don't know if people are going to see this, but this is like a magenta and black bean hue, to get this
Yes.
really beautiful purple magenta color. Um, so yeah, I spent a little bit of time just experimenting with with those things, flowers, berries, onion skins give a yellow color. Avocado pits give a interesting pink tone. A lot of things that might have to be collected over time, but things that I can easily purchase, that are not expensive, that you might already have in your kitchen, was definitely turmeric. And when you mix turmeric, for example, with other ingredients such as like baking soda, you'll get like a really deep orange color. And so when you kind of go through those experiments, you can kind of use this thing called color theory, or just mixing different colors to see how that would translate through dye. So, for example, if I do want to get a specific kind of orange color, I'll mix the hibiscus, which gives you that magenta, pinkish red color, with turmeric, which is yellow. That golden and magenta color would give you a really interesting orange color. I use chlorophyll, liquid chlorophyll that you put in your water, to get a green hue. There's blue spirulina, which is like it's like a powder you can put in your smoothies. It has a natural blue hue. But black beans is one of my favorite color dye materials or ingredients, because it gives a very interesting indigo color. And I didn't really realize that until you have to let it sit overnight and let the colors extract from it, and so beautiful. It's literally one of the most intriguing colors. In some countries, people use like actual like insects sometimes too. I am plant based, and I guess you would consider it vegan, so I wouldn't feel comfortable really using bugs, but you can use all kinds of things. You can use bark, you can use leaves, you can use all kinds of things. It's all about essentially the extraction of the color from the material using water.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you said you've found out about like most of these dyes through research, but I mean, I'm assuming you know, do a lot of experimenting too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the most interesting one was the baking soda. It really showed the alchemy aspect, because it's like you're in your kitchen and you're seeing like how, when you add a certain ingredient, changes like the molecular structure of whatever you're already using, and it's like literally like a science project. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, you know, you also use a lot of like herbs and such in your meals and whatnot. You just mentioned that you were plant-based. So, you know, I don't know if a lot of people, you know, I guess things have changed over the years, but you know, when people think of vegan, they may think of like, oh, like your Beyond Burger and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the meals that you create are like so unique. Like for instance, I saw that you made a hibiscus taco. Like, how do you come up with these creations?
I didn't make that one. That was
Oh,
actually
okay.
I do use a lot of hibiscus though
Yeah.
in my teas, and in my
Okay.
dyes. But I actually did a shoot in Mexico, and that was actually one of the local meals that they gave
Wow.
to me. Hibiscus has a very interesting texture and flavor. It's a little sour, but you know, it when paired with savory seasonings, it has a very interesting, not really meaty, but almost similar to like how a jackfruit taco would taste. Or
Hmm.
yeah. And you know, the further along I get in my plant-based journey, I kind of am straying away a little bit further from things that are supposed to imitate meat.
Yeah.
I'm trying to train myself to just like, you know, just dive into the veggies and the
Yeah.
fruits. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. How long have
Mhm.
you been plant-based?
Since 2017. So
Wow.
how many years is that? 5 years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What
Yeah.
made you want to switch?
One of my first classes in college was actually animal ethics, English class. So it was a themed English class. I never really heard of that before, but we did a lot of research on the food industry and the fashion industry when it came to animal cruelty, and especially like even animal experiments in like space, taking animals to space, and like vaccines and whatnot. And so it was my first introduction to you know animal ethics. So
Hmm.
that kind of planted the seed in me, and then in my junior year of college, Was it my junior year or senior year? My senior year of college. The documentary called "What the Health" came out,
Yes.
and I was like, okay, this is just like my cue to just stop. And I've been cold turkey. I haven't eaten meat in 5 years. So
Wow.
yeah, that's that. I'm just like a cold turkey kind of girl. If I when I learn something, I'm like I can't unlearn it. So I'm just gonna
Mm.
just do me.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
Mhm. Yes.
So, I saw, like on your Instagram and stuff that you spend a lot of time like in the outdoors and
Mhm.
like you show yourself like going on walks and whatnot. Do
Mhm.
you do any foraging at all?
I did do some foraging a couple of times. One of my favorite times was in my neighborhood that I grew up half my life in Maryland, in Bowie, Maryland.
Hmm.
Um, so oddly enough, there were a lot of Asian plants and trees and herbs in the neighborhood, bamboo forests, a lot of Chinese and Japanese trees throughout the neighborhood. And I was very curious as to how these Asian plant species got into this neighborhood. But I think that a long time ago they were just imported and planted there.
Hmm.
Um, and I have this app called Picture This, and I think everybody should get it who's watching or who's listening to this. You can literally take out the app and take a picture of any plant, any mushroom, flower, tree, and it'll identify it for you. And as I was going down, excuse the background, I'm in New York, so it's a little loud. um, so as I was walking in the neighborhood, I saw this herb that was growing so fruitfully, like it was just growing so much, and I took a picture of it, and it was actually called what was it called? It's called beefsteak plant, and it's
Oh,
actually it's edible and medicinal, and used a lot in China too for medicinal purposes. So that was the first time I foraged. I took it home, I washed it, and then I dried it, and I kept it in my a glass jar, and then I just used it. It kind of reminded me of home, and I can't remember all the specific purposes,
yeah.
but it is like in the mint family. So
Mm.
I just I found that very interesting. And more recently, I did forage some scarlet berries in South Carolina,
Wow.
and what I did with those was instead of eating them, I crushed them up into a dye, and it got a very it got my cloth a very nice salmony pink color. So yeah, I just like to just flow with it and see what happens and document. I keep little scraps over here. Every time I find a different dye combination, I like to take a piece of cloth in a little square and basically label it, so I can just keep my, experiments. So when I want to go back and make them again, I don't know what I did.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Mhm.
awesome. Kind of like a little scrapbook of your different cloths.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So, what are you working on next? I mean, like, you have your rugs and you have all your different art. Like, you want to do your
Mm-hmm.
alchemy. Like, that's so amazing. Like, is there anything that you're excited about going forward?
I'm in a very transitional period of my life. So I am a lot of what I do. I'm known for modeling,
Yeah.
um, but I'm slowly not leaving it behind, but I just want to kind of dive deeper into what I make and what I create.
Yeah.
We are entering into a virtual world with NFTs and whatnot, and I do have experience in that kind of world, but I have to do a little bit more research on that. But I think
Yeah.
NFTs are in the near future. And collaging, I'm interested in collaging, self documenting, all that stuff. So I'm excited. I really don't. I feel like a lot of my life I've been planning for the next thing
Hmm.
always, and I am finally in a space where I'm not stressing what is next. What's
Yeah.
next? What's next? I think life, a lot of the time, you need periods of just being present and appreciating what you've done and what you have. And just being a student. I'm in a place of being a student of life right now. Yeah.
Yes, yes, that's beautiful. I love it. Just kind of see where the wind takes you. I mean, of course, you have your path and you have, things that you're interested in, but
Mhm.
it's nice to kind of take a step back and just go with the flow and see where it takes you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love that. So, is there anything else you want to talk about?
Um, no, I mean, anything. I'm an open book, so if there's anything else
Yeah.
you'd like to talk about, I'm open.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just like really interested in just like your art and all that, like you just seem
Hmm.
so artsy to me. I mean, I don't really have any specific questions, but I just want to say that, like I love your whole vibe. I just love everything that you're doing. So,
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think I'm here to just show. Well, my mission is really just to show that you don't have to put yourself in a box.
yeah.
You are allowed to express yourself in any way that you want to. And um, I feel like right now, a lot of my things are kind of subjective to the viewer. You know what I
Mm,
mean? And I'm just figuring this stuff out every day, like everybody else. You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah.
So I'm happy to be talking to you. I do want to know more about sustainability, and maybe if I don't know if we can have this conversation off grid, but um, I I never, when you reached out, I didn't realize that what I was doing was really sustainable. I thought it was more so just connecting with nature, but I am realizing that it is considered
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, definitely. Because, like you're using, like you said earlier, the earth gives us everything that we need. And
Hmm.
you're using all of, natural processes, like you're using natural dye, like that's freaking
Hmm.
amazing. And, you're using hemp and you're making everything from hand. And
Hmm.
so, like, to me, sustainability isn't just, like not using plastic and, like shopping at the thrift store.
Yeah.
It encompasses a lot more,
Hmm.
So yeah, like, this season I want to, or, throughout the podcast, I want to explore different ways that people are being sustainable,
Yeah.
like in various aspects, because
Hmm.
there's so many definitions of it. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you so
So
much for talking to me.
yes, thank you. And my last question is, what does being a sustainable brown girl mean to you?
It just means honestly like truly connecting with yourself, and I feel like when you truly connect with yourself, you understand that everything is we're a part of a bigger picture in life. The earth is a living and breathing being, um, and so I feel like you really can't be connected to yourself if you're not connected to the earth and the environment around you. So yeah,
Yes.
that's what I feel like being a sustainable brown girl is.
Yes, I love it. Yay. Thank you so much, Jade. It was such a pleasure
Thank you.
having you here.
Thank
And
you
let
so much.
everyone know where they can find you online.
Okay, you can find me at on Instagram, JadeNikaylah, and then my website is www.jadenikaylah.com. So that's where you can find me.
Yes, please go follow her. She has like the most relaxing like Instagram feed, so you'll love
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks again.
All right, take care.
Today's featured sustainable brown girl is Priscille Joseph, an interior designer with a focus on bringing nature into the built in environment through biophilic patterns. Priscille is also the host of Design Talk podcast, where you can gain practical interior design and wellness tips that can transform your space. Thank you so much for joining us today, Priscille.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Ariel. It's such a pleasure.
Yes. So, let's start at the beginning. Tell us how you started your sustainable journey.
Yeah, so actually, my journey started in 2016 when I was in my third year of design school. And we were assigned to do a project in any sector that we wanted to design in. And so most of my peers were choosing either retail, hospitality, restaurant, even recreational. It's what we see around us. And I said to myself, I want to do something very different. And so I kind of started doing some research, and I found out that no one was doing this. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's a cool concept. So I decided to design a birthing and wellness center um, based out of Montreal, Canada.
Mhm.
And for me, I wasn't a parent at the time, so I actually had to do research of what it is the process of birthing and just the mental, physical, and emotional aspect what comes with the labor and birthing process. And so I came to a conclusion that if I want to design the space well, then it has to come from a holistic approach with sustainable elements and the incorporation of nature, which is biophilic designed. And after completing the project, I absolutely fell in love with just a sustainable approach, sustainability itself. There's so many different avenues to it, and yeah, I've never looked back since.
Wow, that's awesome. So, did you actually like implement your designs into the space?
So it was actually a conceptual design.
Okay.
But the dream is it would be very beautiful to see that come to life.
Right. Yeah, seriously. Oh my gosh, I can only imagine like how calming and serene it would be in a space like that to, have your beautiful babies.
It's when I actually went through the birthing and like labor process, and I said to
Yeah,
myself, "Wow, it would be nice to have a birthing and wellness center like this."
right. Wow. So what exactly is biophilic design? What does that mean?
Yeah, so we needed to look back at the basics. So what's biophilia? And according to American biologist E.O. Wilson, he's very well known for his statement saying that it's basically merely a love for nature. And so when we're looking at biophilic design, it's evidence-based research and a framework to connect architecture and humans. And they do that by incorporating nature within the built-in environment. And so it's been established, again, based on evidence-based research from psychologists, neuroscience, and it basically proves that biophilic design, or the incorporation of nature within the built-in environment, has the ability to reduce stress, enhance creativity, clarity of thought, improve our well-being and healing. And so there's just so many benefits to biophilic design, and that's the approach that I love to use when I'm designing spaces.
Yeah. So what are some ways that you can bring nature into your designs?
Yes, and so um, I think we need to go back to the fundamentals. And
Uh-huh.
so um, I'm going to try to paint a picture here.
Okay, let's do
So,
it.
why do we feel so good when we go out for a walk, a hike, vacation, camping, even like a spa day?
Yeah.
So, all these activities have one thing in common, it's our connection to nature.
Mm,
And so, for example, on a walk or a hike, you may connect with the different raw materials, such as foliage, trees, even rocks. And the research shows that such exposure has the ability to reduce blood pressure and improve creative performances.
mm.
If we look at camping, for instance, you might get an enhanced connection, visual and non-visual connection to nature. And so not only you're seeing the trees, you're seeing the foliage, flowers, but you're also exposed to sound. And so you could hear like the birds chirping or passing through like the grass. And sound evidence base shows that the exposure to sound and also visual and non-visual connection to nature has the ability to reduce blood pressure, stress hormones, improve mental health, just positively impact your cognitive performances.
Yeah.
Last example, if you think about vacation or spa days,
Hmm.
I'm thinking about the beach.
Yes.
Or maybe here in Canada, like it's lakes, that's our beaches.
Hmm.
But it's just that exposure to water and the sound of water. And what does that make us feel, right? So,
Yeah.
evidence based research shows that the exposure to this the stimuli reduces blood pressure, stress hormones, lower heart rates, improve concentration, and even positive emotional responses. And so I'll give 3 tips on
Okay.
how to incorporate, I guess, biophilic design within your environment to feel rejuvenated.
Okay.
So one of the first ones is evaluate your space, evaluate your views. And so let's take the bedroom, for example. What is the first thing you see when you wake up? Is it your window, a
Mm-hmm.
blank wall? And if you actually have a nice window in your room, maybe that means like orienting your bed. It could be tricky depending on your space layout, but orienting your bed so that the first thing you see when you wake up is actually outside. Um, if you
Mm.
don't have a nice view, like I did for years, because I lived in an
Yeah.
apartment or condo,
Parking lot.
right? Which is not very, I guess it doesn't help at all
Yeah.
with looking outside, but stimulating that landscape or what you imagine to see the first thing that you wake up. So what I did at some point, just hang a large print of a landscape. And so the first
Mm.
thing I do, I'd wake up. And then once you kind of get that going, you're like, okay, what else can I do? Maybe like put some plants on the wall. So it's just that visual connection to nature. The first thing that you see when you wake up actually helps already reduce like any stress hormones that you would have had from the previous, any like residue from the previous day,
Yeah.
starting the day on a good note. And so that's the
Yeah.
first advice. The second one is auditory stimuli in your space. And so, again, bringing it to sound. If you do
Mm-hmm.
have maybe a diffuser, at some point we got one of those Dyson air purifier, and it sounds like the wind outside.
Mm.
And it actually unconsciously stimulates our body and just the positive hormones. And so, if you don't have and you don't want to spend money on technology, you can always open your window. Hopefully there's something nice outside, like, I
Yeah.
don't know, the trees blowing and you can hear
Crickets.
that, right?
Yeah.
But it just feels fresh, invigorating, and it renews your mind. Just, yeah, that auditory stimuli. And the last one, it's bringing texture into your space.
Mm.
And so humans have a biological connection to nature, right? So like thinking again, bringing it back to going on vacation and walking on the sand. And so just feel your feet walking on the sand on a like a warm spring day, and you can feel it just like your feet ticking in the
Mm-hmm.
sand, and you're walking closer to the water, and then soon you feel this cool damp sand, but it still feels nice on
Yeah.
your feet. And then soon you feel that like warm salt water just brush along your ankles, and it almost gives you an experience, right? And so how do we create that type of connection to nature within our home, bringing nature? So perhaps your area rug, opt in for something with raw elements or textures. So something out of wool, maybe organic cotton. So something that you can feel when you're walking on. Another maybe easy advice is if you have throw pillows, maybe opting in for something more texture. And so that way, when you're actually lounging, your body's having that connection to that texture.
Yeah.
And these are like all subconscious things that we can do, but it actually impacts our body and overall health and well-being. And the last thing, like, well, I mean, the list can go on, but what I thought of is if somebody's renovating their bathroom, maybe
Mm-hmm.
opting for a textured tile. And so when
Mm.
you're walking on the tile, it's almost like you're walking on rocks. It's
Mm.
probably, I mean, obviously, like some people have an aesthetic preference, but I think bringing in raw elements can look aesthetically pleasing. And so these are some quick tips I think you can incorporate to rejuvenate your space and bring in biophilic.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I think bringing in plants is definitely a simple way to, bring more nature into your home. So I love that idea. And also too, I see how it is important to have something that you enjoy looking at when you first wake up,
Yes,
because that really sets the tone for your day.
it does. I think it's just positive. I read this quote. I'm very bad at quoting people, but I read this quote, and the woman said, um, "You can't have a positive day with negative thoughts."
Mm,
And so, if the moment you wake up and you see something that would stimulate just positive thoughts and a positive attitude, and just feeling refreshed, you're already setting your day up for a positive day.
yes, exactly. I love that. That's a good quote. I'll have
I
to
know.
remember that. So, when you're designing spaces, do you like design homes or businesses?
Yeah, so I have a full-time and part-time job. So I'm a corporate designer for the government. And so with that, we do integrate just sustainability, the way the industry is moving into sustainable building, lead the incorporation of just to enhance the workers when they're spending a full day in the corporate office. And so I get to touch biophilic design, sustainability in that area. And also, I do take on special projects under my business, LPD Studio, which we are in the process of rebranding. And again, special projects could be working with organizations, nonprofits, smaller businesses. I've done some residential. Um, but again, just bringing in sustainable elements in any way that we can in any sector possible. I think that's something that we need to look at, just the way our society is shifting. Um, yeah, long hours.
Right.
How can we make a long hour actually a proactive one, an
Yes.
efficient one, right, in the office? And so um, I'm not sure if I answered your question there. So
Yeah, yeah, you did. So knowing that you work in like office spaces and stuff, typically when you think of an office, you think of like straight lines and like super cold and harsh lighting, typically no greenery, or if it is, it's probably fake, and that just can really take a toll on your like mental health, being in this cold, like sterile space. So how do you typically, make a business or, an office building more sustainable, or, bring in the outdoors?
yeah, so wow, this could be a podcast on its own, but
I'm sure.
there's so many elements that actually
Yeah.
goes into enhancing someone's overall health and well-being. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the aspect I'm actually working to get an accreditation toward is Well AP. And Well AP is basically an accreditation and someone who specializes in designing spaces to enhance people's well-being. And so it's not only we're looking at the building systems, we're also looking at how, the circadian rhythm, like you said, the lighting impacts us greatly.
Mm-hmm.
um, Airflow. Airflow is one of the biggest elements that have been highlighted during this pandemic, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
how do we enhance airflow, air filtration within our spaces? Um, the carbon offsets, right? Like, there's so many elements. Again, materials, even bringing in raw materials inside the space, more sustainable material. What does more sustainable material looks like? Perhaps going for local materials, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I definitely COVID-19 has, I think, pushed the industry, the design industry, into an area where we need to work with locals um, to basically enhance our reduce our carbon footprint, and that's part of sustainability as well, right?
Yeah.
And so when designing a space for corporate or small business, um, again, finding out what all the elements together plays in part, right? Like, I don't think there's one thing that we can do specifically to
Mhm.
change the entire way of doing designing sustainably. I think every part weaves together to create a sustainable environment.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that makes sense because it's the same like in your everyday life. There's not one thing that you can do to be sustainable. It's the whole thing
That's
holistically.
it.
You got to look
That's
at
it.
it. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know. So, if someone is wanting to design their space, do you have any tips for like being more eco-friendly, like maybe outside of the design, but like, are there ways to, just be more eco-friendly or sustainable when you're designing your space?
Sure, definitely. So whenever I look at eco-friendly, I
Hmm.
try to, again, go back to what it is. I feel like, it's so easy to say, let's be more eco-friendly now,
Yeah.
right? Or like
Uh-huh.
plastic bags are like, it's eco-friendly. I'm not sure, like, how eco-friendly are your plastic bags, right?
Yeah.
And so when we look at the true definition of being eco-friendly, it's just something that's not harmful to the environment. And so the first thing I've mentioned is the way the design industry is forced to use local materials. And so
Yeah.
that's one thing that we can do and implement. And I feel that, again, the pandemic kind of pushed everyone, majority of the people to make that shift, right? Like, where are we getting our produce? Where are we getting our vegetables? And um, again, building materials, right? Like lumber, where are we getting our lumber, or even furniture, right? Where are we getting our furniture imported from another place in the world where it
Yeah.
can actually be manufactured local? These are different things. So being local, I know we've heard it before, but it's super important just to reduce our carbon footprint. And it's probably
Hmm.
like one of the first things you can do. Um, I'm probably going to reiterate things that people have heard, but again, plastic, forget about one-use plastic, right? And it's
Yeah.
it's hard because if you think about like the way we buy goods in the grocery store, like um, now I have a daughter, and so like some of the baby food that you go and like they're wrapped in like I don't know plastic thing, right? And so there's just so many things. We're surrounded by plastic,
Yeah.
and so if we can do the small things to reduce single use plastic in our home, like again, plastic bags in the grocery store, like I think we should just forget about that, right? And we live in a time right now where we have reusable bag. There's so many nice tote bags. um, these are easy ways, right?
Hmm.
Even when we look at recycling, it's something super simple, but I've seen people in the office just kind of shoot out their water bottles,
Yeah.
right? And so shooting out one water bottle, two water bottles, or like, I don't know, like a like those Jello containers, whatever you
Yep.
call them, right? Like
Yeah.
it makes a difference. One, like if everybody throws at one, right, that's like
Hmm.
how many like
Billions.
yeah, that's it, right?
Hmm.
So definitely these are things that I think most of your listeners probably have heard before, but just keep in mind that that one single thing that you can do, reduce single plastic use, recycling, uh, recycle properly, shop local. These are things that I think we need to reiterate and remember the impact it has on our environment.
Yes, exactly. So when you are like shopping for a space, are there any particular places that you like to go?
Um, so the trade industry
Mhm.
has actually shifted very well. I think we're getting there, getting better. But a lot of manufacturers now were able to. The trade has its connection, so that's interesting, and more vendors are coming out to manufacture local. And so
Yeah.
one of the things I thought of, but this is not probably design related, but
Mhm.
there's this brand called Attitude. They're based out of Montreal, Canada, and they make just eco-friendly vegan products. And so it's either body soaps, the whole kit, like cleaning products, everything. And so they're my go-to
Mm-hmm.
for my cleaning products, right? They're my go-to for my soap bar. And so I think just doing a bit of research to find out what's in your local parameters
Yeah.
is probably the number one.
Yeah.
In terms of, I feel like there's not one specific go-to. I feel like I'm always trying to find someone local to try to, okay, can we make this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or who are my vendors around me that are actually manufacturing within my district? And so I'm not able to give one straight answer, but my recommendation is definitely do your research, find the companies within your environment, and support them. I mean, it's
Yes.
not easy being a local business, especially through the wave of the pandemic. And so, if we can collaborate with them in any way possible, let's do so.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's so important, like you've been saying, to shop local, because it's so good to support your local businesses and whatnot. And, I think a lot of times when people are designing their spaces, it's so easy to look online and try to
Yes.
find try to find the cheapest thing, But usually when you shop local or you find a small business, it's going to last longer. It's made with better materials. So
Yes.
yeah, that's definitely the way to go.
It's definitely durability too.
Yeah.
And you get to know what goes into your products or your materials, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus you're ordering something. Of course, cost is always a factor, but if you can spend that a little bit extra, then you understand the value and you're getting the quality that I mean, you'll feel the quality, right? So
Yeah.
in anything, I think in all realms, you can actually feel the quality or know the quality of something that you actually invested in, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Well, Priscilla, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your design tips and ways to make your space just be, more comfortable and calming. I'm definitely going to implement some of those. And
So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say plants. If you can bring in plants, and I know that definitely in our I feel like it's probably I don't know if it's a trend or if it never stopped, but bringing plants are probably the best and most affordable ways.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, will you tell everyone where they can find you online, tell them about your podcast and all that?
Yes, 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 yes. So I am under Priscille Joseph on Instagram, Priscille.Joseph. You can also find me at LPD Studio. We are rebranding, so you might not find a lot of content there. And my podcast, Design Talk, with Priscille, is on Spotify, Apple, I think it's Google Play. I think they switched it now, but pretty much on all the platforms you can find us.
Yes, please go follow her, go listen to her podcast, get all those wellness tips for your design, for your space. And yeah, our last question, Priscilla, is what does being a sustainable brown girl mean to you?
Yeah. Oh, I love that question. Number one, making a difference. Be purpose driven, right? Like, and this can be obviously applied to everyone and anyone. But I can speak for myself. I'm definitely a minority in the interior design industry, and especially in Canada. I feel like there's room to grow there and room to change. But I see this as a motivation, right? So everyone and everyone's always looking, right? And so when they're looking, what can I do um, to make an impact, right? Like, what can I do to make them see something great, something with impact and purpose? And so, again, I'm obviously standing out out of the group, but when people look, I do want to make a difference. I want to be purpose and driven, and that's what a sustainable brown girl means to me.
Yes, I love it. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Priscille, for being here. It was such a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ariel.
Don't leave just yet. Click here to hear from another Sustainable Brown Girl, or click here to watch the full playlist from this season.